Chapter 11, Echoes of the Past. The Great Hall of Hogwarts. Now a battlefield spanning 2 timelines, crackled with magical energy. Albus Severus Potter stood side by side with the teenage version of his father, both wands raised against the threat that loomed before them. A Voldemort from a dark future where he had triumphed. Impressive, Voldemort sneered, his red eyes gleaming with malice. The boy who lived and his time-traveling son. How quaint. Young Harry glanced at Albus, confusion evident in his eyes. Son? What's he talking about? Albus swallowed hard. It's complicated. Right now, we need to focus on stopping him. Voldemort laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the hall. Stop me? You don't even understand what you're facing. With a flick of his wand, Voldemort sent a barrage of spells towards them. Albus and Harry moved in unison, their shield charms merging to create a powerful barrier. The spells crashed against it, sending shockwaves through the air. Across the room, Scorpius and Rose fought back-to-back against a group of Death Eaters. Their training in Potter's Patrol was evident in their fluid movements and coordinated attacks. Young Hermione and Ron fought nearby, occasionally throwing surprised glances at the future children who seemed to know advanced magic. We need to end this quickly, Albus shouted to Harry over the din of battle. The longer he's here in the past, the more damage he can do to the timeline. Harry nodded, his face set with determination. Any ideas? Before Albus could respond, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. Harry, the Time Turner. Albus turned to see the younger version of his Aunt Hermione, pointing at Voldemort's chest. There, glinting gold against his dark robes, hung an ornate Time Turner. That's how he's maintaining his presence here, Hermione explained rapidly. If we can destroy it, he'll be pulled back to his own time. Albus finished, earning a surprised look from Hermione. Voldemort's eyes narrowed. Clever little mudblood, aren't you? But knowing my secret won't save you. With a snarl, Voldemort launched into a series of complex spells. The air around him shimmered and warped, and suddenly, there were multiple Voldemorts, each as real and deadly as the original. Find the real one, Harry shouted, already engaged in a duel with one of the duplicates. Albus scanned the chaos, trying to spot any difference in the Voldemort clones. His eyes landed on the Time Turner, still visible on one of the figures. There, he pointed, the one with the Time Turner. As if hearing him, the real Voldemort turned and locked eyes with Albus. A cruel smile spread across his face. Come then, son of Potter. Let's see if you're as troublesome as your father. Albus felt a chill run down his spine. But he steeled himself and raised his wand. He had trained for this. He was ready. The duel that followed was unlike anything Albus had ever experienced. Voldemort's spells came fast and furious. A dizzying array of dark magic that pushed Albus to his limits. But with every spell he deflected, every counterattack he launched, Albus felt a growing confidence. Nearby, he could see Scorpius and Rose making their way towards him, fighting through the crowd of Death Eaters and Voldemort duplicates. Young Harry, Ron, and Hermione were doing the same, all of them converging on the real Voldemort. You can't win, Voldemort hissed, his wand a blur of motion. I've seen the future. I know how this ends. Albus gritted his teeth. The future isn't set in stone. We make our own destiny. With a surge of determination, Albus launched a powerful stunning spell. At the same moment, Scorpius and Rose cast their own spells, their wands moving in perfect synchronization. The 3 spells merged midair, forming a brilliant beam of light that struck Voldemort square in the chest. The dark wizard stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock. The Time Turner around his neck began to glow, pulsing with an otherworldly light. Now, Albus shouted, destroy the Time Turner. Harry reacted instantly, his wand slashing through the air. Reducto! The spell hit the Time Turner dead on. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like shattering glass, The device exploded in a blinding flash of golden light. Voldemort's scream of rage was cut short as the light engulfed him. His form began to waver and distort, as if being pulled in 1,000 directions at once. The Voldemort duplicates around the room flickered and vanished, and the Death Eaters began to disappear one by one. As quickly as it had begun, it was over. The golden light faded, leaving the great hall in stunned silence. Where Voldemort had stood, there was nothing but empty air. Albus let out a shaky breath, lowering his wand. Around him, he could see the confused and worried faces of the past versions of his family and their friends. The weight of what had just happened, of what they had prevented, settled over him like a heavy cloak. "It's over," he said softly. "We did it." Young Harry approached him cautiously. "I think you owe us an explanation. Who are you? And what was all that about being my son?" Albus exchanged glances with Scorpius and Rose. They had changed things by being here, by interacting with the past. The question now was, how much should they reveal? Before Albus could decide, a new voice spoke up. "I believe I might be of some assistance in explaining the situation." They all turned to see Albus Dumbledore standing in the doorway of the great hall, his blue eyes twinkling behind half-moon spectacles. "Professor Dumbledore," Harry said, relief evident in his voice. "You're here." Dumbledore smiled gently. "Indeed, Harry. And it seems we have some time-traveling guests who have just saved us from a most unpleasant future." As Dumbledore approached, Albus felt a mix of awe and nervousness. This was the man he had been named after, the greatest wizard of his age. And now he was looking at Albus with a knowing smile. "You've done a brave thing," Dumbledore said to Albus, Scorpius, and Rose. "But I'm afraid your journey is not quite over. We must ensure that the timeline is protected." "Which means we have some work to do." Albus nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. They had changed things by being here, and now they needed to set things right. "Sir," he said, looking at Dumbledore. "What do we need to do?" Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "First, my dear boy, I believe proper introductions are in order. After all, it's not every day one meets their future children." As the young versions of Harry, Ron, and Hermione looked on in amazement, Albus realized that this adventure was far from over. They had won the battle, but the war to protect the timeline and their very existence was just beginning. With a deep breath, Albus prepared to face the next challenge. Whatever came next, he knew that with his friends by his side, and the wisdom of Dumbledore to guide them, they would find a way to set things right. The echoes of the past surrounded them, but their future was still unwritten, and Albus Severus Potter was ready to write it.